The very thing you have been reading as the evidence against you is, in my word, the evidence of a seal. The mark you call a failure was always a sign of belonging. Not the wound you cover when a hand reaches too close, not the scar you apologize for before anyone can ask. A seal, pressed into the deepest part of who you are, settled there long before the first ache ever found you. Stay near. There is no rush in this. You do not have to gather yourself or arrange your face for these words. Come the way you actually are, worn thin in the places nobody sees, and let me sit beside that worn place without asking you to fix it first. Right now, while you listen, I want to bring you back to one line that has been written down for a very long time, a line that can quiet the voice that keeps calling your survival a defeat. The verdict that voice keeps reading was already overturned in Scripture before you ever learned to fear it. You think the story has been falling apart in your hands. Read it again, slowly. The truer account is the one where you are still standing, still here, still breathing, after seasons that were built to put you on the ground. That is a different story than the one you tell yourself in the dark when no one is awake to argue with the accusing voice. My word tells the truer one. Let it. I see you. I know the morning when getting out of bed felt like lifting a weight no one else could measure. The friend who quietly stopped asking how you were holding up. I was there the day that question went silent, and I watched you decide it did not matter. There is a list inside you of every time you nearly let go, and you keep that list the way a clerk keeps a ledger, every entry in tidy ink. The mother who is sure she is failing the very children she would lay down her life for has not been forgotten. The father driving home from the second shift, emptied out so the people he loves can sleep under a roof, is not invisible to me. The one who lives alone and has trained the silence to sound like company. You are not hidden either. Your prayers have grown shorter. Some nights they shrink to one breath with no words at all. I have heard every one of those wordless breaths. None of it has been concealed from me, and I am not standing over any of it with folded arms. I am close. I am tender. I am, in a way you have not yet let yourself feel, proud of you. Let me name a few more of you, because each one has been carrying this as though they were the only one. There is the one holding a household together through an illness that never resolves, who learned to cry in the shower so the tears would not frighten anyone, who has forgotten what it is to be the one who is cared for. There is the one who got the news no one wants and has been performing fine at every gathering since. Bills that refuse to add up keep someone awake doing arithmetic in the dark, reading the numbers as a verdict on their worth. A young one has done everything that was asked and still feels behind, still feels like the disappointment in a room full of people who seem to know how to live. An older one looks back across a long stretch of years, while a quiet question circles. Did any of it matter? Did I do enough? Was I enough? I have heard the question. I have an answer, and the answer is yes. But I will not throw it at you. I want you to feel me sitting with you inside the question first. Hear this before I take another step. You have been reading your own marks wrong. Every scar you carry, you file under a single heading, proof that you were not strong enough. You look at the place where life cut you and read it as a sentence handed down against your character. But I read those exact marks, and I see the reverse of what you see. Where the blow landed, I see that you did not break the way it was meant to break you. The night grief should have swallowed you whole. I see you opening your eyes the next morning and putting your feet on the floor. The trust that was betrayed by someone who swore to keep it. I see the stubborn courage it it took for you to risk loving at all again after that. These are not the records of weakness. They are evidence that something inside you refused to lie down and die, and that something was never only your own grit. It was me, holding what you thought was holding itself. There is a particular exhaustion that does not come from doing too much. It comes from carrying yourself the wrong way for too long, gripping your own life with white knuckles, because somewhere you decided that if you ever let go, even for an hour, the whole thing would fall and the falling would be your fault. That kind of tired is not cured by sleep. It is healed by being held. You have held yourself up so long that you forgot there was ever meant to be someone underneath you, catching the weight before it reached the ground. There was. There has been, the whole time. You did not learn to read your scars as accusations on your own. No child is born believing their wounds are their fault. You learned it, and you learned it early. Maybe in a home where love arrived with a price tag, where the warmth came on only after you earned it and shut off the moment you needed it without performing. Maybe from voices that kept a running tally on you, the column of the missing always longer than the column of the gathered. Maybe in a place that claimed to speak for me, a place that praised your usefulness and went quiet the instant you simply needed to be held without a task in your hands. A quiet sentence took root in you back then, and it grew until you mistook it for the plain truth. The wounds are your fault, and the surviving counts for nothing. The version of me you inherited was assembled by people who had been handed a hard God first, and they passed me on to you the only way they knew how. I've been standing close to that inherited sentence for a long while now, not to shame you for believing it, but to take it apart with you, one piece at a time, until the ground it grew in belongs to me again. Let your eyes settle on one object near you. Do not name it. Do not weigh whether it is useful or pretty or worth keeping. Just let it rest in your sight for one slow breath. Notice that it does not have to do anything to keep existing. It does not earn its place in your seeing. It is simply there, held in your gaze, allowed to be. That is far closer to how I hold you than the courtroom you have built inside your own head. The one where you are always on the stand, always explaining, always trying to account for the scars. You are not being assessed by me. You are being kept. Let that rest there for a moment, the way the object is resting in your eyes before we go on. Somewhere along the road you were handed a portrait of me that I never once sat for. A keeper of records who notices your failures faster than your faithfulness. A figure waiting at the far end of the finish line with his arms crossed, ready to ask why it took so long and why you arrived covered in marks. In the part of you that does not say it out loud, you half believe the scars on your life are the reason I would keep my distance. That if I saw all of it clearly, I would step back. So you hide them. You learn to perform wholeness. You give the polite answer to the polite question. You smile through a day that is costing you everything and let no one see how thin your strength has worn at the edges. That figure with the crossed arms and the disappointed eyes is not me. He never was. He is a portrait someone else painted and signed with my name without my permission. Turn it around and notice how strange it would be. Picture a child who scraped both knees learning to walk, and then spent the rest of their life convinced the scrapes were the reason their father would not lift them up. The truth is the exact reverse. The scrapes are why the father comes running. The hurt is what moves love toward the one who is wounded, not away from them. You have had it backward so long that the backward version started to feel like wisdom, like maturity, like finally facing the hard truth about yourself. It is not wisdom. It is a wound speaking in a borrowed voice, telling you that you are too damaged to be wanted. That voice was never given the authority to define you. It only kept its seat because no one ever stood up and told it to sit down. The real me does not flinch at your scars. The real me has never measured you by how seamless you manage to appear to the people around you. I am not the one keeping the list you keep. I am the one who has carried you through every single item on it, very often in the exact hour you were most certain you were carrying it alone. Where you read the record of a wound, I read the record of an arrival. The night I sat down beside you in the dark, and you could not feel me. And I did not leave anyway. The scar is not the proof of my absence. It is the proof of where I refused to walk away. You keep returning to the mirror, and the mirror shows only what you have trained it to show. The arranged face, the held-together look, the expression that tells the room everything is fine. I do not consult your mirror. I see the spirit underneath it. I see a heart that has bled in ways it never reported and went on beating anyway. A heart that keeps beating after all of that is not a failure standing in front of me. It is a witness. It is living testimony to a faithfulness it has not even recognized yet. There is a quiet shame that trails people who have survived hard things. It tells them that needing to survive at all is somehow proof they were not good enough to be spared the wound to begin with. Say that logic out loud and hear how cruel it is. It blames the wounded for the wound, then charges them again for the healing. That is not how I work, and it is not how I see you. I do not hold your hardest seasons against you. I hold them. There is a whole world of difference inside that one word, and your inner life can change in the space of it. And here is what the old voice never lets you weigh: the very tenderness you carry, the way you can spot another person's pain across a crowded room, the gentleness you offer to people who are struggling. Where do you think that came from? It was forged in the places you were wounded. The marks did not only take from you, they gave you something the unscarred do not have. They gave you a heart that knows how to find the hurting and sit with them without looking away. That, too, is the seal at work, turning what was meant to ruin you into the very thing that lets you carry my love to someone else. So hear what I keep saying over you, underneath everything. You are sealed, and the seal does not lift. You are sealed, and your scars are signs, not sentences. Let that be the ground under your feet while I show you where the words first came from. If something here is reaching the real you, the one underneath the arranged face, set one word down in the comments: sealed. Let it be a small flag planted in the ground of your own life, a quiet way of saying you are still standing. And while you are there, look just above this to the pinned comment at the top. 7 short letters are resting there for you, one to open on each of the 7 mornings ahead. Receive them. They were not written for the version of you that has everything in order. They were written for the heart worn thin from being measured. Now let me bring you to words set down for you long before this season ever began. They were never meant for scholars or for people who like to argue over phrasing. They were meant for the worn ones, for anyone who keeps surviving and keeps suspecting underneath it all that the surviving does not really count. They were meant for the one who has started to wonder whether every mark on their life adds up to belonging to no one at all. Picture the people who first heard this sentence, because they were real. A scattered handful of believers in a loud coastal city full of ships and dock workers and noise. Not impressive people. Some carried the marks of slavery on their bodies and braced whenever a voice rose. Some had past they could not speak of without lowering their eyes. They had been wounded by leaders who promised much and gave little, leaders who used my name the way someone once used it on you. So a quiet fear lived in that gathering. The fear that my commitment to them was as unsteady as every other commitment they had ever known. Kept while useful. Set aside the moment they were not. A worn letter arrived and was read aloud while they leaned in close, hungry for one true thing. And it was to that room, to the marked, the worn, the ones the world would have written off, that the news of the seal was first read. Not to the polished, to the tired. What was spoken to them is written for you too. Exactly where you are sitting, a truth about whose you are, and about a mark that cannot be undone. Here is what was written. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 22. You will find it written as 2 Corinthians 1:22. He set his seal of ownership on us and put his Spirit in our hearts as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Read it slowly with me. Do not rush past it. He set his seal of ownership on us. Let me tell you what a seal meant to those people on that floor. A seal was how a king claimed what was his. It was pressed into soft wax. It set. And once it set, it could not be argued away, and it could not be quietly removed. Here's the part I want you to feel. The seal never said the thing it marked was perfect. It said one thing only. It said, this has an owner, and the owner will not let it go. That is the mark spoken over you in this promise. Not a brand of shame burned in by everything that went wrong. A seal of belonging written into the page of who you are. Long before the first betrayal, long before the first failure, the claim was already pressed into the center of you. And look closely at the kind of seal it is, because this is where it goes deeper than you expect. He put his Spirit in our hearts. The mark is not a watermark stamped on the outside, where the world could rub it off with enough cruelty or enough time. By my word, it is my own Spirit. Set down inside the heart, in a place no betrayal can reach, and no failure can erase, and no voice from your past can revoke. You have spent years certain you were unmarked, unwanted, unclaimed, and the whole time the mark was not missing. It was simply on the inside, in the one room of you that you had stopped checking, guaranteeing what is to come. Hear those words because they answer the fear underneath all the others. This is a promise that the surviving was never the end of your story. The scars are not the final chapter. They are the deposit, the down payment on a future already secured, a future kept, not earned. A deposit means the rest is coming. It means the one who set the seal has bound himself to the outcome in a way that rests on his faithfulness, not on whether you can hold on long enough. That is the entire weight of a deposit. It is the proof that the one who paid it intends to come back and finish what he began. And notice carefully what this promise secures. Not a sum of money on a calendar, not a circumstance bent to your liking by a certain week, but you, your belonging, the completion of the one who claimed you. That is the inheritance the deposit guarantees, and it is steadier than anything held in trembling hands. I know the world taught you to read every promise as something that could be taken back. Promises have been made to you and broken so many times that a quiet part of you flinches when a good thing is offered, already bracing for the withdrawal. So when my word says, a seal has been set on you, the old reflex whispers that I will change my mind once I see clearly what you are. But a seal is not a mood. It is not a feeling that comes and goes with the weather of your behavior. It was pressed in and it's set, and it holds when you are faithful, and it holds when you fail. It holds in the strong seasons, and it holds in the very one you are in right now, the season you were not sure you would make it through. Notice one more thing the people in that room noticed. because it changed how they carried themselves. The seal was not given to them after they cleaned up their lives. It was the thing that gave them the strength to begin. Belonging came first. The becoming came after and grew out of it. You have been trying it in the wrong order, trying to earn the seal by becoming worthy, exhausting yourself, reading every relapse as evidence the seal was never really yours. Turn it the right way around. You already belong. And out of that ground slowly, the becoming rises on its own, the way a thing only grows once its roots are finally secure. None of those believers had earned a word of this. Neither have you, and you do not need to. The seal does not rest on how strong you were in the storm, or how few marks you came out with, or whether you handled your pain the right way. It rests entirely on the Son. He carried his own marks in his own body, on purpose. The nail in the hand, the wound in the side, so that the marks on yours could become signs of belonging instead of verdicts of failure. And here is the part most people walk right past. When he rose, he kept his scars. He could have come back without a single mark. He chose to keep them. He held the marked hands out to his frightened friends as the proof that love had walked straight through the very worst of it and come out the other side alive. Look, he said, in effect, this is what survives. Your scars can mean exactly that now. Not a record of what destroyed you, but a sign of what you walked through and lived. Now go back to the line that began all of this. Why do your own scars keep telling you that you failed? Here is why. No one ever told you the marks were never the measure. The measure was the seal, and the seal was set by me. And it does not move because you are tired, and it does not lift because you are not yet the person you are hoping to become. You are not unclaimed. You have belonged since before the first wound ever landed. The scars prove one thing only, that you were still standing when the worst of it fully expected to find you on the ground. They are not the marks of someone who failed. They are the marks of someone who was kept. So do not give up. Do you hear me? Do not give up. You are braver than you have ever let yourself believe. The bravery was never in the absence of marks. It was in the staying, in getting up one more morning, in loving again after it cost you, in the breath-sized prayer offered when no full sentences were left. I have seen all of it. I have called it courage, even on the days you called it barely surviving, and the part of you most certain it cannot take one more step. That is exactly the part I am closest to. The world celebrates the strong and overlooks the ones who simply endured. I do the opposite. The endurance no one applauded, the holding on that earned you nothing visible, the quiet faithfulness in a season when faithfulness did not pay. That is what moves me. You stayed when staying did not reward you. You kept showing up to a life that was not giving back. You have no idea how rare that is or how it looks from where I sit. It does not look like failure. It looks like the kind of strength that exists only because I built it into you and then walked through every test of it beside you. So let go of the idea that you have to arrive somewhere before you are allowed to rest in this. You can rest now, marked as you are, mid-struggle as you are, with nothing yet resolved. The seal does not wait for the struggle to be over. It is what carries you through the middle of it. Think of the page in your notes app where you once wrote out your reasons to keep going, then closed it before you finished. Think of the message you drafted to a friend and never sent, the one that said, "I am not okay." Think of the prayer that shrank, week after week, until it was 3 words long. I was there for each of those. I did not need the list completed. I did not need the message sent. I did not need the prayer to be long. I needed you to still be here. And you are. That alone is the seal holding. Let your jaw unclench if it has been set tight without you noticing. Let the back teeth come apart. Feel how long you have been bracing for the next blow, and let your face be the first place that learns it does not have to keep guarding. Just for one breath, let the readiness to defend yourself loosen, and let yourself be held instead of held together. So here is one small thing to keep close in the days ahead. The next time you catch sight of one of your marks, a memory that still aches when it surfaces, a scar you usually look away from, a moment your mind files automatically under failure. You are not required to argue with the old voice, and you are not required to win the case against it. There is only one quiet thing to do. Say your name just once, somewhere only you can hear it. Then add 3 words after it, under your breath. I am sealed. That is the whole practice. Your name and the truth of whose you are. Not a performance, not a prayer you have to get right. It will not announce itself the first time. It may stay silent on the 10th. But after enough mornings, you will catch the old voice arriving slower and weaker than it used to. After enough weeks, an old scar will surface and something steadier than shame will rise to meet it first. After enough of this becoming ordinary, you will hear yourself claim that you are mine before the accusation has even cleared its throat. The list will still be tucked in a drawer somewhere. You will simply have stopped living inside it. The courtroom will still have its door. You will have stopped walking back in, and do not measure the practice by how it feels on any single day. Some mornings the words will land warm, and you will believe them all the way down. Other mornings, you will say them and feel nothing, and the old reflex will tell you the nothing is the truth. It is not. The seal does not depend on the strength of your feeling about it any more than the sun depends on whether you happen to be looking up. Say the words on the days you feel them, and say them on the days you do not, and let the saying slowly become the floor under your feet instead of a thing you are trying to prove. This is not a test you can fail. It is a truth you are learning to come home to. You are sealed, and the seal does not lift. You are sealed, and your scars are signs, not sentences. That is the mark written over you. It is older than every wound. It will outlast every one of them. Amen. If this devotional reached the place that has been afraid to hope, leave the word sealed in the comments. 7 short letters are resting in the pinned comment above, 1 for each of the 7 mornings ahead. Take them. And if a name came to mind, someone who keeps calling their survival a failure, share this with them. Subscribe, and let the next reflection find you when you need it. You were sealed long before the first wound ever landed.